Hello, hello, and welcome to Views and Paradox. We will be launching live momentarily, so sit tight, and we'll be right with you. Welcome, any and all, to Views in Paradox. Today's episode 10, in which we discuss The Matrix, the seminal film. Joining me, as always, is my faithful co host, intelligent, witty, insightful, Rochelle Racine. Thank you.
What an introduction. Thank you, John.
Yes, and joining us for the first time on the stream, though I'll get to it in a minute. Joining us for the first time, Jose Verdejo. Welcome to the show.
First
Everybody,
time.
Yeah.
thank you
So
for having me.
yeah. So we did a test episode early on in which Jose joined us and was very insightful, and we liked having him on a lot. And we're finally able to get him on to the show. So I'm excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's a shame about that episode. We did a test. We did a test episode, and we had some audio issues, so we never posted it because you just wouldn't have been able to hear it. Like everything had echoed, so we had to we were working out the kinks. But it was a good one. I thought
That's the best episode.
yeah. The missing episodes.
really fun.
There's what two missing episodes.
One we might release.
Yeah,
Maybe.
one. Yeah, I think is possible at some point. In
Which
time.
one's the other one?
Should we say? Or should we tell it?
I
in
don't
private?
remember. You can say.
I'm just going to say it then. It was Dolomite.
That's right. What a good episode.
That was
That's a really good
yeah.
movie.
That movie was great. But we're not here to talk about Dolomite, although you should watch that movie if you haven't seen it. We're instead going a little further back in time, a simpler time, some might say.
1999.
Yeah, we're gonna party like it's 1999 here today.
That's when it all began.
1999. News recently dropped that Matrix 4 has resumed filming. So I think that makes our episode at least somewhat timely. It just left Netflix, but I'm sure it'll be coming around onto another service soon enough. Somebody in our Facebook comments said that it'll probably be on HBO soon. I don't know if that was conjecture or if they had read something, but
The new HBO Max Plus or whatever it is, right?
yeah, they have not got that figured out yet.
Really?
Yeah, well, the HBO is like a mess because there's also a Warner Brothers app, there's like a DC app, there's HBO Go and HBO Now. Like it's
yeah, that's always been a mess. Well, HBO Now is supposed to go to HBO Max now, right?
I think so. Yeah, they want HBO Max to be the premier streaming service for Warner Brothers, which is so interesting that HBO, like whatever polling they did, HBO clearly has better like brand recognition, or not brand recognition, but like people respect and love HBO more than the
It's
Warner
like
Brothers brand itself, which is
It's
crazy.
an elite brand, basically.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting.
Yeah,
No
they got
commercials.
they got Sopranos and Game of Thrones under their belt to like
And
yeah.
Sex in the City. Not that that's a good one, but that's iconic.
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm. So many.
Yeah,
Victoria.
which I've heard the latest season is really good, but I've watched a zero of it.
I have to say, I have HBO Max, and it's one of my favorite streaming apps right now.
Yeah,
Really?
System, how it's
just the way it's designed.
constructed and everything, it's really smooth and it's really sweet to play with. It calls you to wanna scroll because you don't have as many things as you have on Netflix. For
Now,
example.
did you have a service? I'm just asking for me. Did you have a service that switched over to HBO Max, or did you sign up for it?
It
separately?
did. That's what happened.
Okay, I wonder if ours has. I haven't checked it out.
Mine has, but I haven't even bothered to look at it.
Yeah.
The app automatically made itself HBO Max.
Okay.
Okay.
I wasn't even
I don't know
aware
if
that
that
it had like
helps.
officially launched. They've done a really weird kind of PR
It
thing.
has been kind of weird launch. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's out there.
All
It
right.
hasn't been like Disney Plus.
Yeah. So let's start with it. So I figure like we'll start kind of with something I feel is poignant, which is when we first saw this film.
Yeah.
um, and I'd like to start with Rochelle today. When did you
Oh,
first see
hi.
this film? Was it a nostalgic experience?
I first saw it on
fun.
Monday,
Monday. Yeah, it's
like
a
2 days ago. What's the date today? So my first time I saw this was June 29th, 2020.
Recent.
almost exactly 21 years after its release. We had a guest very recently who was not born when this movie came out.
God.
Or if he was like
I'm
days
sure.
old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was what, a 99?
Yeah, 99.
Yeah, he was a 99 baby.
Also, I have another acting colleague who also was not born when this movie. She was in incubation,
Mm.
but she was not like out of the womb.
Yeah, that is the same
was
with
in
my
the
my
Matrix.
brother-in-law also. He was
Yeah.
like he existed in some tiny form, but yeah, had not yet come into the world when this movie came out. Yeah,
And I just saw it 2 days ago.
you were resistant. I just tell us about that for a minute, and then
Okay.
we'll go over to Jose.
So, as anyone who was like a teen in this time or older, I think you'll remember how much this movie like changed pop culture, really. And it was everybody was going to see it in theaters, of course, but it lasted longer than that. Like the hype was not just when it came into theaters and then when it released and then it died down. That hype it's still kind of there because if I
It
tell
wasn't
people
a crazy like opening weekend film. It was a film that like picked up momentum. I didn't see it right when it came out. I saw it.
I
Yeah.
love that you just said that because it opened Easter weekend in 1999,
Mhm.
and it still holds the record for the largest Easter opening.
Really? So I'm a little bit wrong, but I'm also pretty sure it built momentum. Like
Oh,
once,
yeah, like kind of like what we were discussing in the cult classics film. Like there's just some films that really just ingrain themselves into society, and this is one of them.
yeah, yeah, and I remember that the advertising around it was all about the mystery. Like, what is the Matrix? Was their like poster tagline?
There was also you have to see for yourself. That was in the trailer.
Yes, you cannot be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. I don't have a good Lawrence Fishburne impersonation, but his voice is it's like butter.
Unique. It's impossible. He's the only one.
It's like I can do a pretty good at Hugo Weaving. I'll do that later. But
Jose,
Right.
for you.
yeah, Mr. Anderson. So
I'm
Mr.
curious.
Verdejo. Jose. Usually what we like to do with first-time guests is just have them tell us a little bit about themselves. So if you want to just like tell us kind of your relation with film in particular, as a fan or as someone who potentially works in it, let us know a little bit about yourself, and then tell us maybe about like when you first saw it.
Okay. So I'm Jose. I'm originally from Spain, and I'm a film student here in the US. Moved out here 5 years ago. And now I go to Chapman University, where I study film production to hopefully become a director after I graduate.
Nice.
And I'm planning on minoring on PR, which I think it's a good add-on to film production, especially these days when you have to
Good way to get
from
work.
home, right? Yes, you don't know when productions are gonna go back to normal, the normal way, if that ever happens. So
yeah, I have a lot of friends in the film industry who are having this kind of like larger discussion of like when we go back, maybe let's fix some things that have been broken. I'm not unionized, but I have a number of friends who are in various unions, be them like cinematographer or like the DGA, stuff like that. And you know, there's been just like a lot of abuse of workers, and I think that a lot of people in film are taking this time to kind of reflect on that and go like, maybe let's not work people 16 hours at a time, and like, you know, it's like, let's give them proper lunches, and like, let's have protocols that protect us properly, because there's always been this mentality of studios that like, well, we can work them to death, we'll just throw more money at them, like overtime, it's fine. You know, but it's not fine. And it's a very like strenuous, it can be very strenuous, especially on union sets. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing happening.
May I ask a quick question? And let's not get too deep into this because this is an entirely personal question. But the only types of sets I've ever been on is student film. So how different is the treatment of your end of the production versus the actors?
What do you mean? What do you mean our end?
Is it similar, like 16-hour days? I mean, I know we have long days, but like, it seems to me that they give actors enough time for lunch, and they don't.
Yeah, like, and it's different. The way that actors get treated and the way that crew get treated are extremely different. And I'd say that like on small indie sets, there's a little bit more sense of we're all in this together, and on larger sets, there's like a lot more compartmentalization. So you get these, so and I think long hours, it's like the bigger you get, the more you work, really. So like I've only worked on a couple of union projects, like television wise, and those were like 16-hour. I worked like 16 hours straight once. That was probably the longest set I ever worked. It was for this like Korean show that was shooting elements here in New York City. And yeah, we worked for like 16 hours straight.
Wow.
The overtime was good.
How many days?
But, it was just a few days shooting in the city. We shot like 3 days here, but like just crazy long days because they were like trying to shoot like several episodes worth of material because most of the shooting they did back in Korea. It was an interesting project to be on.
Oh, okay. Jose, where were you when you first saw The Matrix? In Spain?
I was in Spain, and I did not go to the movie theaters to watch it. I think no. I watched it with my older cousin, who was a hacker at the time, and when this was like illegal, and like they were like frowned upon in society, and nobody wanted to know. They were like almost like terrorists back in the day.
Hackers,
And
edgy.
yeah.
He was edgy.
And now governments hire hackers these days. It's like, it's insane.
Well, now we codify them
things
white
have
hat,
changed.
black hat, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, you know, you want to be a white hat hacker, unless you want to be anti-establishment, I guess. Then you're. I've been extraordinarily disappointed with the hackers in general, in our lives, particularly Anonymous, who acted like they were going to change everything. And I was like, where were Trump's taxes, Anonymous?
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you?
Get Anonymous.
Waiting.
You know, I was like, you guys said you were going to like mess up the system. And then I saw like posts recently, it was like a couple of weeks ago that like Anonymous is back and people were excited. And I was like, why?
Well, didn't someone, I don't think it was Anonymous, but someone recently released some kind of report. I did not click on this. That was something about Trump paying off more people sexual assaults, but there was like children in this one.
Oh, I didn't see that at all.
I
sure
saw that one.
Was responsible for that, but that came out around the time that Anonymous resurfaced. So maybe they, yeah, but I didn't click on it, and clearly it didn't make its way around the world because you guys don't even know about it, right? So
I did hear about it, and I saw the president tweeting fake news on it. That's as much as I know, but it didn't filter through because there is so much.
There's so much other stuff going on.
Yeah, there is so much going on that
it's you can't keep track of
disappears
everything. Like
in the chaos.
You'll get like a day on looking at Facebook, and it's just like all the posts are like 1 or 2 issues, and it just seems like it's everywhere. And then the next day, it's an entirely new set of issues that just feels like it's like by the end of the day, if you're like engaging, you're like exhausted by it. Yeah, it's a crazy
Yeah.
time. Um, and yeah, like going back to the Matrix and like this time in '99 when we were still like on the cusp of our current reality, you know, it's kind of interesting to go back and just like get a look at that mentality. Like the way people thought of hackers are like Neo when we first meet him in the movie. You know, just like that guy in a dark room, you know, like with the programs automatically searching for whatever. Um, it's kind of it's kind of funny. Um, I saw it in theaters to go back to kind of our opening question. I saw it. It was like a summer vacation. I think it was my last summer in San Diego before I moved to New York for the first time. um, and
Yeah, you were still in high school, yeah? Yeah.
I was in middle school. I was going from middle
Oh,
school to high school.
okay.
So, yeah, like '99 is the year I started ninth grade. Um, so that summer, we when I was growing up, we had a lot of exchange students. So one of our exchange students, a Japanese woman named Kaori, was kind of like babysitting for lack of a better word. Um, but my mom was like working full time at that point, and so she would like go and do things with me, and she took me to the Matrix. Um, and yeah, it affected me. I feel like uh, it affected my own taste, and I feel like the most influential part of this movie to me though was actually the soundtrack. Like I went out and I bought the CD and I listened ad nauseum to that soundtrack. Like that's the most nostalgic part of watching this movie for me is just the music. Like hearing like this had like White Zombie on it
Yes.
before Rob Zombie even.
hmm
um
I know, I clocked that immediately.
yeah, in the
I,
club. It's in the club.
I think one of my notes is on that.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about the soundtrack a little bit because it's like a Prodigy. This introduced me to the Prodigy. There was like I'm trying to remember some of the other bands that were in it, but like I went on to like listen to a lot of their kind of other music and had kind of a brief flirtation with techno because of this movie that I otherwise just like wouldn't have had. Um, yeah, I don't know if you guys similarly had thoughts about the soundtrack or
Well,
It
I loved the
closes.
soundtrack, but obviously I didn't relate it to the movie, you know. But I have to say that the opening scene just got me because of the White Zombie song, and I was like, I am in. This is the most 90s shit. I'm
yeah,
in.
like it's got some great stuff in it. Rage Against the Machine,
Yeah.
The ending, the
yeah,
closing
the
song.
ending song, which is like just I watched this with subtitles on just to see if I was like it's just so I didn't like miss things. And like the lyrics to I think they picked what Killing in the Name of.
Yeah.
And like the lyrics are so in line with the themes of the movie. It's crazy. And yeah, and like Marilyn Manson's on this album. It's just like a crazy soundtrack.
Marilyn Manson was the coolest of the cool in 1999.
He was like I guess a Lady Gaga precursor kind of. Like he was just so out there.
Yeah.
Remember, like there were like all these rumors about him and like things he would do on stage, and like there was just like this weird kind of
It was a lot of weird things
this
being said
aura
about him.
of Marilyn. I mean, he like bleached his eyeball for crying out loud. Like, who does that?
Marilyn Manson. Jose, do you like this
Yes,
soundtrack?
I love the soundtrack. I feel like that's part of what gets you into that world, the kind of music that they use and how that set the mood to and tone for where you are at that moment, at each moment in the film.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
mean,
It really
it's
does a wonderful
fantastic.
job with that. It really
It really is. It's like a music video sometimes when you're watching the film. Like it
Okay.
does feel like the transitions are so smooth that it's just like you're watching a music video for some of the scenes, especially when he comes out of the Matrix.
I've got to say this now that you said that. One of the reviews just got me. So this person wrote, the story of a reluctant Christ-like protagonist set against a Baroque MTV backdrop.
Nice. And that's good.
See?
Yeah.
Christ-like is very appropriate. There's so many like when we first meet Neo and he talks to the guy at the door, the lines are like, "My own personal Jesus Christ, man." Like he literally calls him that. So they're not subtle about like the sort of Messiah analogy that they're making. I was thinking about this movie as like an analogy for our time in the system, and part of me was like, it's a very trope heavy movie, but I feel like it does the tropes it does very well, and it does them to the point where I was like, this could be the last time we see this trope, and that'd be great. Like they could just finish on a high note. But it's got a little bit of like white savior going on with it. I was thinking about it in terms of like kind of trying to spin it towards our current times, and I was like, really, it actually, like, the way, if you wanted to like twist the analogy a little bit, like there's Morpheus, a black man, has to convince a white man that that other people are more important than himself. Like, I was like, I kind of like it in that sense. Although I will say, initially, the role was offered to Will Smith. I don't know if you guys know this.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know why he turned it down?
I do, yes. You can tell us.
Okay, two things. He was doing the Wild Wild West.
Yeah. Yeah, turned it down to do Wild Wild West.
But he said he also knew that he was not mature enough as an actor for that role.
He said that a lot about his past roles. Like Will Smith is like, he's claimed that before. Like when he did 6 Degrees, he like turned down a scene where he was supposed to kiss another man, and he like later was like very like, he lamented the fact that he turned that down. He was like, I should have been okay with it. But like, so he's someone who's kind of admitted to like a lot of personal growth over his life. It's kind of
That's awesome. You go, Will Smith.
Yeah.
He still has to play some of those roles that I would love to see him playing some of those controversial roles.
Yeah,
But
me too. Okay, just side note. That's what's like, there's nothing controversial about Will Smith.
I know.
Nothing.
I know.
Like, give us something, dude. Okay.
I think that Will Smith is a better actor than Keanu Reeves. But I will say something about Keanu Reeves' acting that I kind of realized in this movie, and that it's not that he's a bad actor. I think it's that he's not great with delivering dialogue.
Oh my God. I have a note about that. I have a note.
What's that? How does your note go?
Here.
I said, like, basically, he came across to me like an idiot. And not just because his character is an idiot, but because he couldn't deliver simple dialogue. Like, he had, like, the simplest dialogue out of everyone else in the film. Morpheus and the agent had the most complex, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can you not deliver these, like, simple declarative sentences, Keanu Reeves?
Whoa. But it gave us whoa.
How do you think he could have made it different?
There's a question. He's a little monotone in his delivery. It's
he's monotone. There's no like color.
But the defense I give to him is that I feel like the acting he does with his body is incredible. He has complete and total control of his body, and like in the fight scenes, one of my favorite scenes is the first fight that he has with Morpheus, And like the acting that he does in that scene is, I think, is very good. There's a lot of subtlety to it. There's a lot of like, you know, there's a lot of moments. There's like all these acting beats along with the choreography. So I give him a lot of props on that, even if his line delivery is a little flat.
He is one of my favorite actors to watch when they don't have lines.
I mean, I think that's why John Wick took off so hard.
That's a good thing. That's harder
It is
than
a good thing.
lines. Acting without lines.
Do you disagree, Jose?
No, I totally agree that, I don't know. I feel like if we would have gotten Will Smith Neo, that would have taken a lot of attention from the story itself. And I like that they got Keanu Reeves, because that kind of made his career playing Neo.
Yeah.
And we've seen him in a lot of great stuff after that. And as a fighter, like you say, his physical acting, and especially his fighting skills, are a lot better.
And like he literally learned how to do this stuff to the point where like he became a martial arts enthusiast after this movie.
The first fight,
you can tell,
months for him training.
What's that?
The first fight scene you were just talking about, it took 6 months of training just for this first fight scene and of rehearsing.
I believe it. And what I love about that scene is partially the way that it's filmed. This is like, it's kind of pre Jason Bourne, right? It's like definitely pre Bourne 2, where like the fast cut. That movie is like kind of generally accepted to be the movie where like the start of like overly fast cutting and like high shutter speed came into action scenes was the Bourne Supremacy, the second one. And like watching a fight scene like this is so refreshing compared to that style of shooting, because they just they shoot it wide and you can really follow the moves and they're very intricate. I like, there's a lot of respect being paid to the martial artists, to the choreographers in this movie, which is something that's like really refreshing even today, 20 years later.
Yeah, I agree, those held up well.
I wonder if that has anything to do with having storyboarded the shit out of this film, because I feel like when you have drawings to follow, you can reproduce that fighting even easier, because you have those beats that you have to follow afterwards.
Yeah, you can like tell when good storyboarding has happened in a film, right?
Like a comic book.
Yeah, and they were very influenced by anime. I've seen videos about the making of The Matrix in the years following, and like, yeah, very influenced by just the way that like, anime tends to be very dramatic in its shots. Like the shot with the gun where she's like, dodge this. It's like, it's so dynamic and in your face. And there's just like shot after shot after shot they're just like pieces of art in themselves, right? Like the bullets raining from the helicopter, and they just like shoot it from underneath as they're like all falling, even though he would have destroyed Morpheus in that scene with the with the helicopter.
So which special effects hold up? Because like it was very interesting to me how watching like the juxtaposition between the ones that did and the ones that didn't. Like, for example, the opening, the mouth growth.
Yeah, you can see the makeup.
That the whole thing was terrible. Like I guess, is it CGI? Probably not back then.
Oh, when his mouth closes, it's CGI, but then once it's closed, it's makeup.
It's just makeup. But yeah, both were terrible. The CGI of it, and then like the.
Yeah, along those lines, the other thing that doesn't hold up quite so well is the machines themselves when he wakes up. Like the thing that like grabs him. Like there's that scene where you can tell it's just very digital. It's a little too glossy. And then it cuts closer and there's like an actual prop on his neck. But I think it holds up surprisingly well considering it's 21.
I agree. Considering 1999. And this was
very well made, yeah.
Yeah, it is. This is like the very beginning of all this. Like they set the standard basically, I would say, no?
Yeah. And this movie, I would actually say, looks better than the following two.
I have an interesting fact I learned in one of my classes about the bullet time effect.
Yeah.
That was inherited, like that was copy pasted from something, one of the first experiments to create film, where someone wanted to know the exact moment in a horse race when the horse crossed the line. So they set up a line of cameras, and
yeah, this was
they took a
before.
lot
Yeah,
of
this was
pictures.
before film was actually rotating.
And
I
this
forget
was
what
like
that device is called. It's like a turning device. Oh, I should know this. And you like look through a hole and you spin it, and it shutters the frames. And it was like the very first known demonstration
kinetoscope.
of yes,
The
thank you.
kinetoscope.
Yeah. The kinetoscope. Yeah, to study horses, and that was the very first. Have you ever
they
seen?
based themselves on that theory to create the bullet time effect.
That's really it's really smart.
cool.
Have you seen the rig that they have for like the whirling scene?
It's insane.
It's like 100 cameras all lined up in a circle, and so they just timed each camera so that they could then like just play them in sequence, and it like replicates a camera moving around you really fast. But it's actually just like a sustained rig of like 100 different cameras. It's wild.
Imagine having to edit that.
The editor on this film, what a job.
Well, winner of an Oscar.
Yeah, we kind of skipped over our usual stats. If you want to run that through us now, I think that's fine.
Okay, well, every single award and nomination has to do with the editing, production, or cinematography, or like the special effects. No one was nominated or won anything for acting.
Not even Joe Pantoliano?
Nominated?
Not even Joe Pantoliano?
Academy Awards, they cleaned up at the Oscars. Best film editing, best sound, best effects and sound effects, best visual effects as well.
All deserved.
Best sound, best achievement in special visual effects, both winners. The nominee for best cinematography, best production design, and best editing.
Yeah, all deserved, I'll say.
Yeah, I agree. All deserved.
Yeah. I wish they had like an award for choreography, and like stunt work, because like this would have taken that as well.
Yeah.
I've heard in recent years a number of people within the industry trying to get the Oscars to do some kind of a stunt. Yeah.
Brad Pitt was talking about it when he got his Oscar nomination.
Because it's a very just like underappreciated like sector. I mean, not every movie, has major stunts, but enough do that you could definitely have a lineup every year for
Completely.
Sure. Yeah, I think that would be like a nice, like if you could kind of combine stunt work with like choreography, like this movie would be one of the, top tier.
Oh, agree. Can we talk about something really silly?
Sure.
Okay.
Why was the black suits and black tie and sunglasses the uniform of people in the 90s in film?
Black tie, black suit, all black everything.
Sure, it's white.
Was this with the with the white? I don't know.
Everybody in the 90s wore this. Everyone. Like, look at any film that has like secret agent type dudes, and that's what they wear in the 90s.
I mean, that is like what Secret Service wear, right?
I'm sorry?
Jose, what did you say?
Said they were trying to promote jobs at Wall Street. I don't know.
Well, I think that like the Secret Service wear suits like this, right? It's like black tie, black suit. So I think like in this movie, it's tapping into just sort of that cultural association of like the security guard in the all black suit. I think it's something like that.
It was just everywhere in the 90s. Go watch films like this from the 90s. Everyone wears those.
I don't profess to know enough about how fashion works to to know, but
well, actually, while we're talking about it, the costume budget for The Matrix was it was dismal. It was dismal. Like Trinity's outfit, the main one that she wears, was like made of really cheap PVC. And then
Latex.
Neo's coat was made from like a $3 a yard
It's
fabric.
just a standard trench coat. He wears like, just plain black shirt. Like, yeah. I could see that. Clearly, that budget got up for sequels. We won't talk about sequels too much. I know, Rochelle, you haven't seen them. So I'll try not to make too many comparisons.
I probably won't, to be honest with you.
I don't think you need to.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm happy with this film.
Stand up 1 second. I'm really sorry that I have to stand up 1 second. I'll be right back in a minute.
Okay.
Keep talking.
All right. We will vamp without you.
Okay. So another fun thing, I got really attached to the character Tank. And when I thought he died, I cried.
Tank's lovable. Like, he's only got a few, like, they have to characterize so quickly in this movie, but I think they do a really good job. And yeah, Tank, there's something about him where I was watching this going, why didn't we see more of him? Like, what happened to that guy? He was cool. I will spoil that he's not in the sequels. I think he had some kind of falling out with the Wachowskis, and so he was not invited back. Or this is before social media, but he did something that like akin to like talking shit, on Twitter, like the equivalent. And so he wasn't invited back, and they wrote him off that he died of those wounds.
Wow. Damn.
So
Damn.
I don't know what happened, but I think he kind of sabotaged his own career in a way. I don't remember what he said. I didn't think to look it up before we did the episode, but yeah, he was lovable.
Yeah.
Tank. Yeah, I love the scene. He's got good delivery of his lines, right?
Yeah.
There's so much energy where he's like excited to meet him, and then I love the line where he's like going through the protocol programs. He's like, really boring shit.
Yeah. To be fair, he also had lines written for him. Those were good. Okay, we just talked about Tank real quick.
Yes, I could hear that. I'm sorry. Tank
right.
is the one who.
He's the younger brother. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's the one that teaches him how to do kung fu at the beginning.
Yes.
And I wrote a note on that. How would we like that these days? Don't we download apps in our phones these days that promise us to teach us a language in like weeks and things like that? It's like, is that the direction that we're taking? We're gonna learn.
It feels like it. Yeah. A lot of these feel like fairly logical leaps that they're making.
Yeah.
It's not really.
I just found that really interesting.
Hard to swallow. That is interesting. I had wanted to ask you, Rochelle, how much of this was spoiled for you? Because like the whole build up around this movie was like building up the mystery and like what the heck is going on. And like even the beginning of the film is all about sort of like peeling back the layers of the onion until you get the big reveal that like the world's been wiped out by machines and we're all like dealing with this computer system. Did you know all of that, or like where did you fall in sort of spoiler territory?
I knew kind of what the Matrix was. Like I knew that it didn't really exist, and I knew that all of this is supposed to be like a simulation, but I didn't know how that happened, why we know that, etc.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious because I was like, how could you kind of not be spoiled on this movie?
Like I knew the character names without even ever seeing it. Like this is ingrained in our culture completely, Yeah. I knew Morpheus, Trinity, and Neo. And by the way, I have a sister, Trinity. Hi, Trinity.
Yeah. Trinity, your sister named after Carrie-Anne Moss.
I'm curious.
I don't know that there's any relation between her name and this character, but
no, there isn't. What's up, Jose?
Why didn't you watch it before? Were you refusing to watch it, or
She's
what
too
was
cool.
the reason behind that?
Yeah, I didn't. Thank you for asking. I didn't get to finish that thought. So John wanted to know why I rebelled so hard against it. So typically when there's like big, like hype around a movie, like I don't watch it. I don't know why. It's just a
I don't
thing.
blame you.
But then I got like this movie was hyped for so long that it just became a point where it's like 8 years later and I still haven't watched it. So then I like started making a point that I haven't seen it because everybody gets this like amazing reaction. They're like, oh, "You've never seen The Matrix, right?" So
It's like saying you haven't seen Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. Because this is the Star Wars of our time. It really is. And yeah, so I just mindfully did this. And then John is the one that had to talk me into it. So thanks, John.
Yeah. I saw I was leaving Netflix
podcast.
and I was like, let's do it. We had like, when we talked about doing the show, we had wanted to like make more of a thing of it that you hadn't seen this movie. I kind of wanted to build it up, but we kind of failed to do that. We just like kept forgetting to, we're too focused on the topic at hand, I guess.
Yeah.
There's just like, I feel like this movie has such a tight script. I think that's why it's held up so long.
I also wanted to comment on that was so somebody was like, "Oh, the movie's over 2 hours," you know, when I was telling him I needed to watch it. And I was like, eh. So I went to sit down and watch it. It flew by. I could not believe I was watching that for 2 hours. I was like, "What?" It just flew by. So tight.
There's no wasted space. You know, it's like it's a little indulgent on some of the action scenes, but that's kind of what you're there for. You know, it's like that's how they drew you in the first place.
You know, I had my roles in there, right? In the long, drawn out fight scenes and all the guns. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, like when they're shooting the window to free Morpheus from the tower with the helicopter, that scene goes on for probably longer than it should. But like, there are a lot of beautiful shots that they're cutting to. Like, I feel like they're in the edit room going, I don't want to lose that shot. I love that shot. You know,
what can we do to keep this one?
Yeah. Let's just keep all the good ones and edit them together. Make it the longest scene ever. But it was beautiful to watch.
Yeah. But yeah, like going back to the script, it's just like there's no wasted scenes. Right? I actually felt like maybe there's a few more scenes I would have appreciated. The one thing in the film that I feel like is extremely underdeveloped is the romance. I'll put it in quotes, the romance, because like they don't seem to have any time to build a rapport or a relationship. You know, like he meets her for the first time at that club, and like, where between that and the end,
I love you.
Yeah, where like she already loved him. She was like a stalker, you know.
Yeah,
he was a stalker.
Yeah, having the like true love's kiss in there, I think might have been unnecessary. Yeah, it's just like it's like one trope we didn't really need.
Yeah, I know. I threw up my hands and I was like, after all that, this is what it is like.
Do you think that the lack of chemistry between them had anything to do?
The lack of chemistry? Maybe.
Unless you thought there was chemistry between them.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I knew that they got together because it's The Matrix and everyone talks about it. But I was waiting for it the whole movie. And then she was like, I love you. And I was like...
They hint at it. They hint at it
from...
But
where's it coming from?
Yeah, they hint at it from Trinity. Like, you know, like if you were to rewatch the movie, you can tell that she's like constantly weighing him to see if he's the one. You know, like, do I actually like him, kind of a thing. And like she's rooting for him on the jump scene.
Yeah.
But there's nothing going the other way. Like there's really no scene where like Neo looks at Trinity and goes, "Whoa," you know?
Damn.
Yeah,
like just the Oracle telling him.
Yeah, like Neo should have hooked up with the woman in the red dress because that's the only one he ever looks at the home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
they try to. Yeah,
tell her.
Yeah. The Oracle, I love, by the way.
Yes.
She's amazing. She passed away during the production of the second film,
Mhm.
and they wound up recasting her. And I felt like, just a very quick commentary on those, that the woman who replaced her, like, no bueno. No, I don't know about you, Jose, but I didn't care for her replacement at all. Like, she didn't have any of the charm and charisma that this woman has. I love that scene with the Oracle. It's like the heart of the film, really.
It is
You know.
really powerful. Every word she said just matters for what happens, even for the following films, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. What'll get your noodle bacon later is, would you have done it if I hadn't said anything? uh, yeah, that idea of like throwing this Oracle in there, and I love how unexplained she is. They don't tell us anything about her. And I don't need it either. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like a problem that the sequels actually have is that they try to over explain. And in this movie, there's just like a lot of these setups, and they're mysterious and they're intriguing as a result. Um, but like there's so few wasted lines. Like every line is kind of on point, trying to get you to this moment where Neo is killed and reborn as the one. Um,
Yeah.
it's like she looks at him and she goes, "You're not the one," and he's not, right?
And then
Like
she
that.
says, "But maybe in another life."
That
Yeah,
moment,
yeah, yeah. Like it's you're not yet.
yeah,
um,
but she cannot tell him you will be,
right.
because that would jeopardize the whole
Yeah,
situation with him becoming it.
because
I don't
then,
know.
yeah, then he would never do it.
I feel like
Yeah.
every line in this script, every single line, it's like reduced to its biggest
Boom.
exponential, yeah. And in the other films, they rush the script, and it doesn't have that feeling that they just really took the diamond out of the stone. With which with the first one, it feels like they took years in writing it, so every single line is delivered, and you see the meaning behind it, and all the character that's being built behind every single delivery
Yeah.
with the actors that they chose to.
You get like the references to like Alice in Wonderland, which are nice because there's both the White Rabbit, and then later he references the falling down the rabbit hole, like, and like before he enters the Matrix, every line is like hinting at the fact that his reality isn't what he thinks it is. I wrote down the name of the company he works for.
Hmm.
So like when we first get there, I had to like pause it and go back. The first time we see the building, it has the name of the company, and he works for a company called Metacortex. I was like, how on the nose is that
Yeah.
is that name? Um, I was kind of looking for Easter eggs on this watch. I I I haven't seen it in a very long time, but I remembered it like scene for scene. I like did not forget any part of this movie. So I was like, all right, let me see if I can like find any little hidden hints. So I'd like to share with you a couple that I spotted, because the first was, well, one of the big ones was the metacortex. Um, in the initial chase on the rooftop where Trinity's running from the cops, she runs by a billboard that is like for guns and ammunition, and it looks almost exactly like the shot where she says, "Dodge this." Like where she holds the gun to him, there's like a big billboard with a gun that's like at the same angle, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. um the there's a really weird one I found, and I didn't know what to make of this, and I'm curious if you guys can postulate. When we first see him in his cubicle, it's empty. The only thing uh in the cubicle are two phone books that say city phone on them. Those same two phone books are in the Oracle's kitchen on top of the refrigerator. And I was like, wait, what? Like the exact same two phone books are are there. And I was like, why
Why?
why this because everything's so meticulous. And they both say city phone. And I was just, I don't know. There's probably someone cleverer than I who looks at it and goes, I know what that's saying. It might be that he's still in a space where he's not accepting.
I think we should explain what a phone book is to the youngins.
So there was this book back in the day that had everybody's phone number in it. Invasion of Privacy.
And you could also find them at this thing called a payphone,
which are in this movie as well. There are payphones, and there are rotary phone, not rotary, but there's a touchstone phone in this movie. Hardlines, and hardlines are very important to the plot. Like, this film would have a harder time today because there's so few hardlines. Like, how are they going to get in and out of the Matrix? Yeah, you'd have a little bit harder of a time.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. The last one I caught that was like very subtle is that his apartment is room 303. And the room that he has to go to at the end is apartment 303. So he does this kind of full circle from apartment 303 back to apartment 303 where he dies. And is reborn as the one. Right? So I caught the circle there.
And where it begins.
Yeah.
It's totally the entire story. It's step by step of the hero's journey. Like Neo goes through all of those.
Yeah, big time.
In this script.
Yeah. Very much so.
About that right now in script analysis class, Jose, I thought of you.
Yeah.
I know this. Everybody else was like, what is this? I was like, I know this.
We had a little workshop.
And some of them are like very overt. Like, what do they call it in Campbell's, where he's like the descent into the underworld? And it's like literally when he wakes up in the Matrix, he's crossed the boundary into the land of the unknown and the bizarre. We get fun and games with the training sequence. There's all the beats are very much there. This movie, I agree with what you said compared to the sequels, especially that like this one felt like they'd really spent a long time developing it and just like, sharpening it down so that it's just this like kind of like perfect thing. And it shows in the plethora of movies that came after that really tried to like rip off elements of the Matrix, that like what makes this movie so good is that it's the full package. It does have cool action sequences, but it has a really tight script to back it up. So
yeah.
Goes hand in hand.
Do you have anything to add before we hang up, Jose?
I have one quote from Morpheus. I think it was Morpheus who said this. And this is right after Neo starts training, and when he's having doubts whether or not he's the one. And Morpheus says that there is a difference between knowing the path or walking the path. And I feel like that really clicks, not only back in the time, but these days too, and like forever. There is a difference between
it's timeless,
knowing what you have to do and actually doing it and make it your daily life. So I think those were very powerful words.
I agree. That brings me to first of all, there was a couple quotes in here I liked, but I just kind of want to go off what you just said really quick. With like, I was drawing a lot of parallels in like the way I view spirituality and how I interact with the universe and such from this movie. Like this isn't real, or like I was thinking of what is that called? Manifestation. I was like drawing the parallels between that and affirmations in this movie, and that was fascinating to me. And I wonder, like, I was 13 at the time, so I don't really know how this whole new age philosophy, how much it was ingrained in society at this point, but it was just really interesting to me to see that and to know that that's where they were pulling stuff from. Another quote that I had was from Mouse, and it made me feel really good about every bad decision I've ever made in my life. And he said, "To deny our impulses is to deny the very thing that makes us human."
Yes, the digital pimp.
Yeah,
I was so sad when I first saw this and he got killed. I was like, no. Yeah, it bummed me out actually when they just like unceremoniously killed off the whole crew. I was like, we barely knew ye.
yeah.
And it feels like it is setting up for sequels. Like this is a chapter one story, like a book one story. This is just like, oh, it has begun. And so like to me it felt kind of short sighted to just like blow away the whole crew. Uh but you know, what are you gonna do? Especially when they were all like pretty cool.
I know.
Poor APOC gets one line in the whole movie. One line. He says, he hands him a gun and he goes, I hope the Oracle gave you some good news. That's literally all he gets. That's all he gets to do the whole movie.
I feel like probably they didn't know how it was gonna work out. Like if it was gonna have success in the big screens, and maybe they just got rid of the characters.
Movie is though, right? Like,
but I think this one more so than normal. I think Jose is right because I was reading that when they were pitching this movie to try to get investors and such, no one wanted to touch it because they said the script was so confusing.
It sounds crazy on paper. It really does.
It is a lot of exposition when you think about it, but they pair it with visuals in such a way that it's incredibly watchable. Yeah, it's incredibly palatable. Yeah, I agree with that. Are there anything you guys like nitpicky elements of the film? Things you didn't like, or things you were like, does this not make sense?
Along with this, he was like, "Come with me, okay." Like learn karate, okay. Like I don't know. Like
he's such a blank slate, right? He is. We don't know anything about Neo. We don't know why he wants to know Morpheus. We don't know how he's heard of the Matrix. We don't know anything about him. Yeah. So it is, yeah, there is kind of that question of like, why?
The whole time
there is something else to it. Why him?
I agree with that. One I had was I've always wondered how on earth do the Sentinels fly? They look like they're swimming, and they don't have hover pads. They don't have wings. They're not walking. They're flying around with their tentacly squid things, and I've always gone like, how the hell do those things work?
I haven't even thought about that. Like,
it's something that always kind of bugged me. When I first saw this movie, I thought that they were underwater when they were in the old tunnels. But they're not. I mean, you can tell they're not because the machines literally cut into the side and water doesn't flood in. So that was something that always kind of, I was like, man, they didn't even make an effort to explain that. Like, I'm not sure why they designed them
We're
in
supposed
that way.
To non-aerodynamic creatures flying.
I know.
Do you always question that?
Yeah, that was one I had from early. Yeah, that was something I had early on. Well, like I said, when I saw it the first time, I justified it because I thought they were underwater. Because the way they move feels like squid or something underwater. But when I saw it a second time, from that moment on, I was like, and I might have even seen this twice in theaters. I'm trying to remember. I saw it shortly. Yeah, I like it. At the very least, I had the DVD.
What about electromagnetic fields? Does that sound too crazy?
Well, the hovercraft hovers using some sort of electrical pulse, but they explain it visually. Like, it makes sense because there are like these pads along the hull of the ship on the top and the bottom. So, you know, they could have done something similar to that where they're using a technology similar to the machines use, but I didn't catch it.
I'm going to spend the rest of the day researching that.
And for the most part, like, I love the grittiness of the production design. It's something we didn't really get to. I know we're going a little long, but like the production design reminds me of Alien. Like
Yeah.
going all the way back. It's so
Rugged.
tactile. Like everything's dirty. I love that the screens, the way they view the Matrix is like all jittery. You know, it's like there is kind of this quality that just
Flashy.
it feels tactile. It feels real. Um, so
And the logic.
I love the production design in this movie. Uh, what's that?
Beautiful. I mean, it won awards now, so.
Yeah, for a reason. My last note on here, I actually have a couple. One, so much dramatic thunder. I wrote this note.
Which dramatic thunder.
Like or Morpheus turns around. You know, it's just like every moment that's like the early on, it's just like there are these beats where somebody says a line and it's do you want to go out there, Neo? It was cracking me up
Every
on
time
this
something
watch.
important's gonna happen.
Yeah, I was like, they were really into the dramatic thunder. Like, I give you one or two. They do it like 5 times. It's crazy how often they do the dramatic thunder.
It's
Yeah,
Matrix being upset for losing Neo.
yeah. And then the last thing was I wrote most epic flip off ever.
Yes! Ever.
It was like
Down here.
it was just like, you know, some people they do like like this one was popular with like that sort of half fingers, but he just like bam puts it on. And it's just like, oh wow, that is an epic flip off.
It was an epic flip off. I was like, oh.
What if I just gave you the finger?
I give you the finger, you give me my phone call.
It is pretty epic.
Sounds like
Speaking
a
about
pretty good
delivery,
deal.
Keanu Reeves, that one was pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty good, Keanu. Good
Well,
job.
like it's become iconic, the performance, in just like its deadpanness, you know, that whoa that he does. Like, you know, it was a meme before memes were a thing. You know, it was it was a precursor to the meme.
Meme
Whoa.
culture.
Maybe it
I
started.
mean, the whole thing about being woke, doesn't that come from the Matrix?
Was it?
I don't think
know.
it does, but it sure as hell fits right in.
Just a little, I
Yeah,
would say.
Yeah.
you know.
Lots of things these fits right into this.
Yeah. And at the end of the movie, you do have Rage Against the Machine screaming, "Wake up," at you. Wake up! Yeah. So
Fantastic.
that's fun. All right. We're a little over an hour, so we'll start our wrap up. Last week we forgot to mention that we were doing this movie, but that will not be the case this week. So next week, there is a release coming to streaming that we have decided to follow, and that would be the musical Hamilton. So if you are a theater kid and you like Hamilton, or you're curious and you're gonna watch on Disney Plus, then tune in with us to discuss that epic. It's got to be like 3 hours or something. So we'll probably give that episode a little bit more time.
Plus Lin Manuel Miranda.
Yeah, he's so hot right now.
I don't know. So
What's that, Jose?
There is one thing about the musical recorded on Disney that it's not gonna have any big words, any swearing in it.
So yeah,
With all the
I saw
F-bombs.
this. I saw this tweet by Lin Manuel Miranda, and I'm going to swear for any kiddies watching the show. I mean, I already gave the finger. What am I saying? That he tweeted about this, and he said that Disney Plus doesn't allow anything R-rated, and for censorship, they only allow one fuck possible, and he said there were 3 fucks in the film, are in the musical, and he said, and he tweeted this, that I literally gave 2 fucks to put this on Disney. So one of them will still be in the film. The others, they're gonna bleep one of them and like record scratch the other.
Which ones are gonna be? Which one's the one that's gonna be kept? We should take back.
Well, I know one of the. I remember one of them that is getting record scratched, which is the Southern Democratic motherfucking Republicans or whatever. So that one they're doing record scratch. I don't remember what the other one was. I'm trying to remember where even in the show that they had those, but I don't recall. Do you have a guess, Rochelle?
I'm very excited for that. I'm also very sad that the film adaptation to his first Broadway musical, In the Heights, was supposed to be hitting theaters this month, and I'm so fucking sad.
Yeah, I mean everything's going to 2021 at this point. Even things that have been delayed to the end of the year, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw all of them next year. And just In the Heights looks good. That trailer, we will definitely do that movie on the show. I lived in the Heights for 6 years, and I love that neighborhood. And they clearly shot it on location, because when I watched the trailer, I just I missed that neighborhood. I was like, oh, so nostalgic.
And it's my favorite musical, so we have to do it.
I only know a couple songs from it, actually. They're very much in that Lin-Manuel Miranda style, though.
I starred in one of the characters.
She was in a musical in the Heights that was 3 weeks. I think it was 2-3 weeks, and I got to see every single show except for one. So I know the show a little, but she knows it better. She can sing it.
Yeah. So join us for Hamilton next week. I think that'll be a fun one. And it's coming out on July 3rd, just in time for the holiday. So be sure, if you're going to watch that, then maybe tune in and chat with us about it. I'm hoping it'll be clickbaity enough for us to get a few views. On that note, our last video, 4 of you who watched gave it the thumbs up, and I just want to say thank you for doing that. Please give us the thumbs up again. It does help us out, help spread us across the algorithm on YouTube. So if you watch this, then the comments were accidentally turned off last week because I misclassified the video. But the comments are on, so please leave a comment or give us that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. Jose, where can the people find you?
You can find me at Jose Verdejo. That's JosemeVerdejo on Instagram.
All right, and that's on the screen.
Yep.
And I'll link it below.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us, Jose. It was great to have you.
It was
Officially
great. Thank you for having me.
This time.
I'm gonna make an executive decision here, but we'll have to ask Ileana too. But would you two want to come on for the In the Heights episode, whenever that may?
I think she would really love.
If we had someone in
but
the
I will ask her
show,
right now.
definitely, I think that's a must.
Yeah, she was in the show, and then he saw it 9 times. So
9 times.
Just live, then listen to the lyrics a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, Hamilton, I never got to
guys.
see, but I do know the album pretty well. Listening to it feels like watching it in a lot of ways.
right,
Cool. Rochelle, where can the people find you?
linked below, Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget to like us on our film thing. Join the Movie Club Collective group or like us on Facebook as well.
Yeah, find us on Facebook. We have a page there, Views and Paradox. We have a group, the Movie Club Collective, where, we do post stuff for the show, but occasionally we post stuff just related to movies. And we encourage anyone else to kind of post any cinematic love they've got there. You might inspire us to do an episode if you do kind of post on your own there. So please do that. I am at John and Paradox on Instagram is the place you can really find me. It's also on Twitter, but I don't really use it You can find our show at on Twitter and Instagram at Views and Paradox. And is there anything we're forgetting? I feel like we've done
I think we did it.
I think we finally got it. All right. So without further ado, keep on watching more movies.
Happy viewing. That's a wrap.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a lot of fun.
All right.
Thank
Cool.